So Done by Paula Chase.
Chapter 1. For people keeping score, Matei Johnson didn't need anybody. Not her father, who acted like he was 16 years old. Not her mother, who, depending on which Cove rumor you believed, had either been sent back to Korea or was a manager of a hair supply store her parents, Ty's grandparents, owned somewhere. Ty didn't know if either were true, and all Nona, her grandmother, would say was, "She not around here no more." Tay believed Nona, but she had looked her mother up on Friend Me anyway. Once, maybe twice. Definitely not more than 4 times. She was sure it was her, unless there were a lot of Kim Tae-yoons out there. The account was locked, so all Tay knew was they had eyes alike and sort of the same kind of name. Tay, not Ty, she always had to tell people. But she didn't know if it was really her, and she'd stopped caring. She didn't need anybody. Just because her heart was doing tiny leaps since she'd noticed that Mr. Jamal's truck was gone already, which meant he'd headed to his sister's to get Bean, which meant Bean would be home soon, didn't mean she needed Bean. She just missed her. Missing somebody and needing them weren't the same thing. She sat on top of her nightstand, staring across the small road that separated her row of townhouses from Bean's. She'd been up there all morning, afraid if she moved, she'd miss her return. Not that Mr. Jamal would let her come hang out right away. He never did. Even when Tay tried to sweet-talk her way inside for just a few minutes, Mr. Jamal would always say the same thing. "Jamila just got home, Matei. She'll see you tomorrow." It was the dumbest rule she'd ever heard of. It didn't stop her from waiting, though. She just wanted to see Bean back for herself the second it happened. The weekends Bean visited her aunt in the woods were bad enough. Her being ghost all summer was too much. Tay had looked so lame walking to Center Court by herself. She'd hung out with Rashida and Monique, but it got played out fast. For one, Mo had a bad habit of always rolling her eyes or scrunching up her mouth when she disagreed with Tay. She also didn't have a problem telling Tay she was overreacting. Then, Sheeta was just too sometimey. One minute she was 100% on your side, agreeing. Then as soon as Mo so much as opened her mouth to breathe the opposite, Sheeta was skating to the other side. It got on Tay's nerves, like, girl, pick a side. Still, the fact was her, Mo, Sheeta, and Bean were a squad. Had been close since 5th grade when the 7th grade girls in the hood came at them sideways trying to start trouble. It stopped almost dead once they clicked, though. The older girls knew Mo and Tay were a match to anybody when it came to clapping back, and if it came to it, knuckling up. In Tay's mind, she was the leader when they were all hanging together. But without Bean, she realized she was the third wheel. It's why she had faked not feeling well to get out of going to the zoo when they went with the Boys and Girls Club, and even to the carnival, her favorite tradition. She wasn't about to sit there looking dumb while Mo and Sheeta shared their little inside jokes. It made her feel like an outsider in the small circle she'd been the head bee of since elementary school. That wasn't the only thing, though. Bean's absence had left a block of cold anger in Tay's stomach all summer. The closer it got to Bean returning to the hood, the more the anger melted. But it had eaten at Tay that Bean had never once invited her over to the woods. Not even for a few hours just to chill. Tay couldn't even hint at an invite since Bean had barely texted her either. And barely was being generous. Like, how do you take a break from being somebody's friend? Tay wondered, the icy annoyance seeping back into her veins. Because that's what it felt like Bean had done. One minute Bean was right there across the street. They were texting, hanging at Center Court, or chilling at Tay's like almost every day. Then bam, Bean was in the woods, and it was like she fell off the earth. At least if she had jumped into the mini chat now and then, that would have been something. But she had cut everybody off. Who does that? She stared across the street like a thirsty person eyeing a glass of water, needing to see her friend get out of Mr. Jamal's truck so all the stupid thoughts she'd had all summer would stop. Until Bean was back rolling through the hood with her again, things felt off. Tay closed her eyes for a second, then said the words out loud. They felt off before she even left. She pushed the thought out of her mind fast, like it was a bug lighting on her leg, but it made its way back. She hugged her knees to her chest, her entire body taking up the tiny top of the nightstand, and gave in to it. She already knew that the more she tried not to think about it, she would. So she played things over again for the millionth time. It had been Bean's last night before heading to the woods. Tay had to nag her for nearly an hour to come hang out because Bean was always worried trouble would start. Definitely, if you stepped to somebody wrong in the cove, you got your bell rung. And if it came to it, sometimes a gun might blow. So staying in the house was Bean's religion. Bean had finally come. She always did if Tay bugged her nonstop. But this time, as they were walking out of the house, Bean had mumbled, "So glad I'm leaving tomorrow." At least Tay was pretty sure that's what she'd said. Bean was really tall, a good 6 inches taller than 4'11" Tay, so maybe she had just misheard her. Plus, she'd said it really low, and her back was to Tay. When she turned around, she had seemed okay. It was crazy. Tay had debated with herself. Had she imagined Bean was mad or not? Then Bean left and hadn't dropped a single hey into their group chat with Mo and Sheeta, so Tay knew something had to be up. She started the same text to Bean 5 times. "What's up? Is everything okay?" But it made her look too pressed. She wasn't about that life, so she deleted it every time. And as soon as she did, the urge would hit to text. "You act like you in another country. What, you can't hit nobody up?" Wink emoji. Anything to get Bean to write back. LOLs or sorry, been busy. So Tay would know everything was still cool. And the longer summer wore on without a word, it definitely felt like something was wrong. Like they were beefing, but Tay didn't know over what. It wasn't like her and Bean ever fought, not really. Not unless you counted the times she changed Bean's mind about staying in the house. That they fought over plenty. But that would have been dumb. Every time she successfully got Bean out the house, they had a good time. What was to be mad over? An answer popped into her head. Something that had happened in her backyard. It was stupid. Most things that involved her father were. That's exactly why Tay had mostly forgotten about it, and she told Bean to do the same thing after it happened. Her father wasn't worth spending energy on, but she couldn't shake it because she was almost sure that Bean hadn't started acting funny until after. A few times she'd come close to asking was Bean mad at her because of it, but Bean knew how her father was. That couldn't have been it. Could it? Anger welled in her chest. She couldn't stand her father sometimes. He was forever messing up, and Nona was forever forgiving him. Bean knew that, since she was who Tay ranted to anytime he'd done something new to get his stupid butt in trouble. No way Bean was mad at her because of him. Convinced, she stamped thoughts of it back like you did a roach you were trying to scare away, because all the thinking and wondering stopped today. Bean was coming back. The cartwheels in her stomach settled. She let her eyes drift to her mirror. She approved of the honey-complexioned cutie with light green oval-shaped eyes staring back at her. For good or bad, Her icy mint eyes were the one feature she shared with her father. She sat up, stretching her short torso as far as it would go, checking her profile. She was bootylicious curvy. Wavy jet black hair ran to the middle of her back on one side. The other side was shaved down. She patted at the soft down absently, still not used to feeling scalp. Bean hadn't seen her new do. Tay hoped she'd love it. Maybe she could get Bean to change up from the braids she always wore and get a matching style. Her phone dinged softly. Her grin spread so her entire face was teeth. It was Rolly, and his message was classic him. Simple, almost boring. Heard your girl be back on the block today. She wanted to go in on him for not hitting her up sooner, then reminded herself what was important was that 2 weeks ago, her crush since 5th grade was finally acting like he had eyes in his head and could see she was the baddest chick on their block. True, they had mostly talked about TAG, the new talented and gifted program. He played drums and was trying out for the music program, so every text turned to that or him asking was she hyped to try out for TAG dance. She didn't care though. At least he was hitting her up. The text sat a few more minutes as she stared across the street counting in her head. When she reached 100, she hit him back. Yes! Finally. Rolo. Can't believe it, but you pressed. Aha! Hug emoji. Rolly was the only person in the world that could call her pressed without getting clapped back. At least for now. Things were too fragile for her to get in her feelings about every little thing he teased her about. Dat girl Tay. Hardly. Mr. Jamal ain't gonna let her come out today anyway. So it's not like I'm gonna see her. Blank face emoji. Rolo. He's strict as hell, huh? Dat girl Tay. He just really into family time. Weary emoji. But Mr. J all right. Rolo. Yeah, I can't hate. He used to ball up with us on the court sometimes when JJ be out there. He cool peoples. Tay's fingers itched to text back and ask him what was up. Were they becoming a couple? Or was he really texting her just to announce Bean was back today? The whole hood knew that by now. Some people had a newspaper. The Cove had gossip. After 10 minutes, she gave in and texted back. Dat girl Tay, what you up to today? Her heart smiled when he answered back fast, like he'd been waiting on the question. Rolo. Rat-a-tat-tat. Drum emoji. Dat girl Tay. That's what's up. When you start your band, don't be caught up in groupie chicks. Frowning emoji. Rolo. LOL. Groupie's the best part of being in a band. Dat girl Tay. Ew, you grimy. I might have to stop messing with you. Tongue out emoji. It was the closest she'd ever come to admitting that she was into him. Even as she hoped he would take it like a joke, she wanted him to admit the same. Rolo. So you could stop talking to me just like that? Suspect emoji. Wow. Much shade. She flirted back, encouraged by his answer. Dat girl Tay. Oh, so it matter if I cut you off? That's more like it. Hashtag better care. Smiling emoji. But the convo was over the way it always was. Nothing for a few seconds, then minutes. It was the only way she ever knew he was done. It was another reason she was glad Bean was back. She'd let Rolly occupy every corner of her mind. He smothered every other thought. It wasn't cool. The whoomp of a door closing snatched her attention from the phone. Mr. Jamal's truck sat in the small driveway. Her girl was home. Her fingers texted in a blaze. Welcome back to the block, wench.
Enjoy the rest of the book.